I accept the reality that surrounds me for what it is, knowing that any protest or screaming or braying, it does not help. People are dying by millions in Biafra, in Iraq, in Iran, all over the world, not just today. Since the beginning of the world, men kill men. And once you, and it'll continue, it'll never stop. And once you accept this truth for what it is, you free yourself of those chains. They infected you from the childhood, telling you people are good, you help your brother like your next one, help you like your brother.
But you were helping your family, and your family was helping you.
Nobody was helping me.
No?
Except my father.
Exactly.
Yeah. But my father...
So how would you call it, a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a one. But he is, I never met a man as powerful, as entrepreneurial, as dedicated, as loving as my father. I am alive because of my father. He did things, and he didn't make it. He was killed by the Germans, murdered. So where's the justice? Where's the... Well, it doesn't make sense. If anybody should be alive, he should be alive. And not I. Why me? What did I do? Was I any better? No. So... And now, you know, throughout my life, I was searching for a meaning to life. Why do we live? What are we after? And now I realize it's an exercise in futility. There is no such thing as meaning to life. Once you accept the reality that surrounds you for what it is, you free yourself, you feel happy, joyous, and you appreciate what you got. And I have a shower. I never had it. I have hot water. I brush for 6 years I didn't brush my teeth. I didn't wash my hair. I was starving. Now I have...
6 years when you were at the camp? Because
well, I was in various camps, but it wasn't only camps. I was poor. I was deprived. I was sentenced to death. Jews, by law, there was a Nuremberg law passed in 1938. They passed laws where they took the Jews out of the law, which means the Jew could not enter a court. He could not accuse anyone. You could kill a Jew, rob a Jew, beat up. He had no recourse. And I was a Jew for 6 years. And I went through epidemic and hunger and starvation. I ate grass, I ate water. Need I? So now I...
So when you were there, what kept you going? Why did you want to survive?
I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think it may be due to, now that I analyze it, I was an avid book reader.
Yes.
From books, I learned that life is much more beautiful than from experiences. From books, I learned the beauty of life. I got hooked on classical music. And in my saddest moments of despair, I used to sing to myself voicelessly, like one melody I'll never forget. It's called The Gypsy Orphans by Pablo Sarasate. It's the saddest song you could ever hear. But when I was desperate, hopeless, I used to sing this to myself for some reason. It kept me alive by realizing that I may not be the only one who is in such a sad situation. And when I was really sad and hungry and cold, and I used to recite to myself Tuvim Mickiewicz, and I couldn't get over how beautiful this is. So I figured life is beautiful. So I didn't think about why I wanted to live. I wanted to live, but then I think of it. All my school friends, each one wanted to live. They all got killed. My teachers, my parents. My mother had 9 siblings. My father had 9 siblings. All dead. Killed, murdered, tortured. So it doesn't make, nothing makes any sense. And it's searching for meaning to life, it's superfluous. There is no such thing. So there comes a point you want to enjoy what's accessible to you, what you have around. And there's so much accessible to you. Every Tuesday, I have lunch with my friends for the past over 20 years. I cannot wait until next Tuesday, every Tuesday. I enjoy it. They are sophisticated, intelligent people. We decide the fate of the whole world and half of America. And we keep it on a high intellectual, civilized level, and that's my meaning to life. And I go to a good, we have it in a good restaurant, enjoy a good meal, and that's all there is.
Ty jesteś człowiekiem, co jest twoją miarą?
Yes, I say my life is consistent and continues to of a series of accidents. I don't believe in destiny. I don't believe in afterlife. I believe only in a good life, and if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And I feel, once I lost the hope, the dreams, the search for meaning, I feel so relieved, so free, so happy. I don't know, maybe I talk myself into believing that I feel happy, but I feel happy. Now I have a very serious heart condition, so I should be really sad and worried. I am not. I enjoy every minute of the day, and I have so many things that are around me that are beautiful, enjoyable. So to worry, it's futile. You know the myth of Sisyphus? Okay. It's an exercise in futility. So I repeat, once you accept the reality that surrounds you for what it is, and you get rid of all those heavyweights that were fed from birth, people are good. It's easier for a poor man to go to get to heaven than for a rich man to go to the needle eye. Help your brother like yourself. Nonsense. Nobody cares. The only thing that matters is good company, good breakfast, theater, movie. I'm reading an excellent, I cannot tear myself away. Excellent book. That's what gives me joy. And by the way, I still work.
So you say there is no such a thing like good people or bad people, good things or bad things. So how would you define good or bad? If there is no such a thing.
I can define bad. Bad is sick. Sick people commit bad things. Take the Germans. I was a witness how people with a doctorate murdered, tortured before death, tortured innocent people and killed them. Were they bad? No. They believed in Hitler. They believed 80 million Germans. If you see, they all say Heil Hitler. They were full of enthusiasm. When they killed, they believe that
They were doing the right thing.
yes. Hitler said in his book Mein Kampf, if I win the war, I will be right and I will be justice. And whoever will not agree with me, I'll kill him. And if he were to win the war, you know who would sit in a dock in Nuremberg? Not Hitler, not Goering. Roosevelt, Stalin, Churchill. They would be the bad ones. And Hitler would be the good one. The only reason he is considered bad because he lost the war. So, how do you define bad or good? Well, there are certain things, when you mention the word measure, there's a feeling of love which is extremely strong, not only among humans, but I'm talking now about humans. How do you measure love? When a person says, I love you, and the other person says, how much? How do you measure love?
I don't think it's possible.
It is.
Is it? So how do you measure love?
I learned it from a bitter anti-Semite, Richard Wagner. He created most beautiful music. And I saw every one of his operas more than once. And in one of his operas, The Flying Dutchman, the man and a woman meet for the first time. They look at each other without a word spoken. They fell in love. Finally, one of them says, I love you. I love you too. How much? How much do you love me? How do you measure love? By how much one is willing to give up. And I got a job as the assistant to the assistant cake baker. And my first job was sweep the floors. So they gave me a broom and I sweep the floors. And one of my coworkers comes to me and says, hey, you sweep like a Jew. So I started saying, you fucking get off me. So he apologized. And now then when I swept the floor, I was careful not to sweep like a Jew. I never swept the floors before. So after a while I imitated everybody and I blended in. And I got a job. I worked and I made friends with my co-workers. And we used to greet each other. Instead of saying, hello, how are you? We'd say, son of a bitch is Jews, and shake hands. It was like a national madness. Everybody was involved in hating the Jews. And my friend,
Why did they hate Jews so badly? Why?
the history of Poland. You know, like, for example, after the war, only in Poland, the Poles killed the Jews in 1946, in Kielce, after the war, nowhere else. So Poland has a rich history. I remember once my father, by the way, I grew up in a Yiddish-speaking apartment. My father spoke to me Yiddish only. So my native tongue is really Yiddish. And that's the one I can express myself best. And I remember I was once walking with my father and his friend in a street, and they were speaking Yiddish to each other. And two big guys approached them saying, "Don't you dare speak German. This is a Polish city." So,
They didn't know.
well, they couldn't distinguish. Now, Podpręgierz and Pająk, when somebody rented an apartment to a Jewish tenant, his picture was on the front page. He is renting to a Jew. When in front of a Jewish stores, there was always a picket. Nie kupuj u Żyda. Don't buy from a Jew. And this is the environment that I grew up in. Either I was stupid, I decided to go out and see if I can pass as a Christian. And I had no papers at all, but I did. And somehow I must have been a good actor because in Warsaw at the time there were many schmalcowniki. They're walking through the streets looking people in the eyes. And Jews, no matter how Aryan they looked, their eyes betrayed a fear. In the beginning, so did mine. But after a while, I managed to overcome it. And I walked as if I was a happy guy. I'll tell you who we had in Poznań another publication I forgot to mention called Rycerz Niepokalanej.
It's still on. They still have it.
You know who was the publisher? Ksiądz, now he's a saint, Maximilian Kolbe.
Yes.
I used to read every week, it was a weekly, and every page was devoted to hatred for Jews. And all of it was signed by Ksiądz Maximilian Kolbe. The hatred originated from the Catholic Church.
Right.
So the church, the Catholic Church, was the primary originator and stimulant for anti-Semitism in Poland. There was a point, I was afraid to pass. When I saw a priest, I would cross the street. When I saw a nun, I would cross the street. They were all dressed in black. And I was afraid. When I passed the church, I would spit because I believed maybe this will save me. I expected the worst from the church. And the church did not come through. The church was very bad. To give you another example of the church, after I got used to impersonate a Christian, by the way, I bought myself a book on catechism, and I learned it by heart. But I saw people,
Why did you learn it?
in case the Gestapo calls me, they usually say Ojcze Nasz, or, so I wanted to, first line of defense. But I wasn't sure. I saw people cross themselves, but I wasn't sure how do you do that. So I decided to go to St. Anne's Church in Krakowskie Przedmieście, and I finally got the guts to enter the church. The church was full, people were standing up. There's no room to sit. And I remember the time came for the sermon, kazanie, and the priest went to the podium, what do you call it, and he spoke, and he had a sermon. And then I hear these words: the Jews killed Jesus Christ. I know there are some among you who are helping the Jews. I forbid you. If God wanted to help them, he knows better than you. Don't you dare help the Jews. And then my legs started to shake. I had long pants, so you couldn't notice it. And I hardly walked out of the church. In fact, every store during the war had a sign in a window to attend the exhibition Żydowska Zaraza. And they proved scientifically that the ingredients of Jewish blood are different from Aryan blood, that the bone structures, that the shape of the head, the size of the head, and they pointed out, and these were statements made by professors of universities in Germany. And around there, I remember we had lunch sometimes across the street because they sold kielbasy, sausage. So I remember we went, a few of us had lunch, and then when we left the place of work, we looked at the window. The place was closed, there was a sign on the window. The place is closed because we were selling kielbasy with human meat. And that's what I had for lunch. Well, in Warsaw at the time, there were very many instances where you find in the morning women, naked women or almost naked, with cut off buttocks and breasts. Many times. So my suspicion is somebody was using this for the sausage. I remember once I was walking and I saw a man, short, was sharply, was dragging a woman, and she was screaming, and she was, I want to live, and there were people surrounding them soon, and he says, you fucking Jewish, and then another man joined, and they took the lady, and she was begging, pleading, I want to live. And this was right near the main entrance to the ghetto. And they took her to the ghetto, and then I heard 2 shots. And I remember I couldn't walk. I was standing there, and then I went to the wall of a building, and that's how I walked home. And again, I thought I'm the only Jew alive. I'm going to cut it short because too much.
Have a break. Do you want to have a break?
Break for lunch.
Yes?
Yeah.
No, not yet. Very briefly. I just want to finish this chapter.
Okay.
To the trains, to the trolley station. It was close to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I remember we're passing, joking, excellent mood, and we saw in the corner a man with a military olive blanket around what looked to me like a broomstick. Didn't pay much attention. And in the next corner I saw another man, the same, and then I saw a few more men, and everybody had a military blanket. And then, after a while, I hear the bells of the church ringing 5, 1, 2, and then all of a sudden, they all unwrapped the blankets, and everybody had a rifle in his hand, and Rodacy, the uprising broke out. Everybody join us. We're going to fight the Germans and take revenge. And I was so happy. So full of enthusiasm. Finally, I'm able to take my revenge. And I immediately joined with the others. We all joined. And they separated us. I was assigned for a different unit. And they gave me 2 grenades. And they assigned me to a unit in Mokotów. And I became a part of Armia Krajowa. Fighting units, and the enthusiasm was unbelievable, and the youth around me was the flower of Polish youth, beautiful, full of enthusiasm, full of life. I can't the best people in Poland